Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another beautiful Wednesday with us on Live with Lloyd. I'm your host, astronumerologist Lloyd Strayhorn. As you see, we have a very distinguished guest, as all my guests are, 19 Keys, who will be joining us in a moment. But I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Okay, let me see, get this straight. And by the way, today is a new moon day for those of you who. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Today is a new moon day. When a new moon, it means it's auspicious to launch anything well worth you executing or going after. But this is good. Let me give the forecast before I bring my distinguished guest on. Today is Wednesday. It is the 23rd of November. The sun is in Sagittarius. The moon is in Sagittarius. And in fact, the new moon was about 5 something this afternoon, Eastern Standard Time. It is an 8 universal day, a 3 universal week, an 8 universal month, a 3 universal week, a 4 universal day. So those under the signs of Aquarius, Leos, Geminis, and Virgos, or if you're born on the 4th, which is my guess, the 5th, the 13th, the 14th, the 22nd, 23rd. Did I do that? I see I made a little error right there. But also, please like, share, and subscribe. That's supposed to be the 13th, not the 12th, folks, okay? But please like, share, and subscribe, all righty? Last week, I happened to have had the pleasure of being a guest and being interviewed by 19 Keys, and it was fun. Let me show you just a couple of things. This was 19 Keys interviewing me in Brooklyn. Okay, and it was very, very cool. This is me being on the other side of that interview. And this is after the interview finished last week. And it was really, really nice. It was really nice. Okay, so without further ado, I want to bring on my distinguished guest, 19 Keys. How are you, sir?
I'm blessed, man. How you feeling?
I am fine. You know, I was thinking about you. I was trying to find out, do I know a person whose name starts with a number? I can't think of any other than you, 19 Keys. You know? Question: what led you on this journey and what led you to the name 19 Keys? Because in numerology, 19 is called the Prince of Heaven, denoting honor, success, and esteem. And you were even born in the year that adds up to a 19, which I thought was interesting. Uh, would you like to share with us how you got started and how you named yourself 19 Keys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
This
This
journey of
journey
mine.
of mine.
I think you got
I
to
think you
mute
got to
wise.
mute wise.
Echo back.
Echo back for some reason.
This journey of mine started a while ago, and I was in study, right, of occult knowledge. I was in study of looking for deeper meanings to everything, right? And it led me on a journey of a quote as I was studying. And this quote came from Master Fuad Muhammad. Master Fuad Muhammad, for those who are not in the know, is the one who taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. He would, in history, would actually be considered one of the most important people of all time, because most of reality as we know it would not be the same if it were not for Master Fuad Muhammad. You would not have a nation of Islam. You would not get Malcolm X. You would not get Minister Farrakhan. You would not get Father Allah and the 5% Nation, which also would spill over to the influence of hip hop. You would not get Muhammad Ali, right? You would not get the Black Panthers, because their program was modeled after the FOI program, right? And so many more things on this planet Earth. So it's very important to understand figures throughout time and how important. But of course, school won't teach you these things because they don't want you to investigate our story, our history, right? But without Master Fard Muhammad, the world would actually be a completely different place than it is today, because the movement of consciousness, right? And, our belief of being gods would not be here as prominent as it does exist, right? Currently, today. So I had to lay that foundation because that's very important. And there's no dismissing those immutable facts and truths. So,
Understood.
Master Muhammad, had a quote. This was a time in the 30s. And this quote was talking about, the statistics at that time. And he said there's 17 million original people, right? And he was talking about you and I, us brown, beautiful people. You understand me? And he said the 2 million Native Americans or Indians, right? Even though they're not really Indians, we know the story on that. But what he was saying is that represents the 19 million rusty lock minds. Now, he said that also is a representation that there's 19 million well-oiled keys to unlocking those rusty lock minds. Now, keys can be interchangeable for knowledge, enlightenment, awareness, knowledge of self, particularly in my interpretation, so that a people could never be oppressed again. And those locks that we have on us, because the average person is walking around with a rusty lock mind, meaning that they don't know how to get to that part of their potential, right? They don't have, the knowledge and the science of self on how to activate those areas and parts of themselves so that they can reach their ultimate Godhead and their God self. So giving a people this knowledge unlocks them from a mental, physical, and spiritual bondage, allowing them to flow at that level of having that mind of God. But that number 19 is so powerful because it don't just represent a finite number of just 19 million people. No, it represents all, that 1 through 9, because all of us are just numbers of 1 through 9. Each one of us range in there somewhere. So it represents from the 1 and that 9, that's the male and the female, that's the masculine and the feminine, right? That is the opposites attracting. That is the magnetic of reality of family. You understand me? So when you put that 1 and that 9 together, there's always something to be uncovered and something to be revealed, because the number 19 is also a revealing number. It uncovers truths in reality. So whenever you see that 19, it is a number that you can observe, right? Where all truths are being uncovered in that. It is also a number that gives birth, because when that 1 is next to that 9, that is birth happening. You understand me? So for me, my thought process as I teach, is about giving birth. It is about unlocking minds. It is about giving the chi or the key or energy to the mind to enlighten the people with the light of knowledge.
That makes sense. And in fact, I want to put this up because this was on your site that I thought was interesting. The poverty mindset versus the wealth mindset.
Yes, sir.
And I try to tell, and I mentioned on our show that at least in our community, we have a very unfortunate, strong poverty mindset that we think that this is how we're supposed to be. And if any one of us come into our own, then we tend to kind of want to knock each other back down a peg and stuff like that. Can you explain this?
Yeah, so everything is mental. I teach in the BWO. I have actually a live coaching program that I teach, right? So I personally teach twice a week, and I also have some of my other peers that teach as well. So some of them teach physical, and some of them teach, financial training as well. If you can put that back up on the screen for me, please. So let's take the poverty mindset versus the wealth mindset, which I think is very good, Lloyd, that you put this up here. Because most of America has a poverty mindset, right? I was thinking the other day, and I was thinking about spending money, right? Versus saving money. Anytime that, you know, when you have an asset, when you have money and you have the wealth mindset, it will be about protecting that money, maintaining it, and gaining more. When you have the poverty mindset, it is mostly about just spending that money, right? And then figuring out how to work for more. But the mindset of wealth is a mindset of abundance. The mindset of poverty, right, is a mindset of poverty is a mindset of lack, right? So a person that has a poverty mindset is already always overspending than what they have. So we get into this place where right now we have a credit crisis on our hands in America because people want to over leverage themselves. They think they need more than they actually do. So we overspend in America. You understand me? We have no financial plan towards where we're going. So if you don't have a financial plan and we are in the midst of a great macroeconomic crisis known as a global recession, then therefore you don't have any trajectory towards building and gaining, obtaining, maintaining, reaching goals that are monetary goals towards wealth. Everybody should have a financial plan. Like 2023 is now. Don't try to show up in January. You have to be starting now. And you should break down your year into quarters, right? What is it that you want to make for Q1? What did you want to make for Q2, Q3, and Q4? So when we start thinking and we become fiscally minded, right, to where we're breaking it down in these quarters, now we have a trajectory towards every one of our moves and we can be accountable for reaching those goals or not. So then you have people that are afraid to make investments. So people are always looking for excuses on why not to invest into assets instead of reasons, right? Because we will spend money. I seen somebody comment on my bro page and it was like, man, if I spend $125 a month, I better make 10K. And I said, this is crazy, right? Because number one, knowledge is always valuable, right? But number two is the fact that we spend money on weed, liquor, we spend money on sex, club, entertainment, we spend money on food, all of these things that will give us no return in the long term, right? But we will spend it happily and we spend that money on liabilities, but we don't think about it at all, right? Because we know that there is no return. So there's nothing to think about. I'm just going to spend, it's going to go out, nothing is going to come back, right? But when it comes to investments, like your education, right, which is key for everybody, when it comes to investments into your health, right, making sure that your mind and your body is right, we start overthinking. We start auditing the value of assets, but we don't audit the value of liabilities, meaning that when it's time for us to, think about spending money in areas that have no value, we don't think about it. But when it's time for us to spend about money in areas of things that do have value, we overthink it. So it's a poverty mindset because it's actually the reverse. See, a wealthy minded person would have no issue with taking the risk towards assets, but we take the risk only in liabilities. So the wealthy person, I would rather lose money on a new endeavor. I would rather lose money from working out, trying an investment. I would rather spend the money on education without thinking, because I know that at least I'm spending money on things that have the possibility of giving me a return, versus somebody who takes their budget and they spend it on things with no possibilities of a return. That person that has that wealth mindset will always achieve more than the person with the poverty mindset.
Well, that's what I never understood, that we would buy like clothes, these expensive Jordan sneakers for little babies, and the babies about a year from now, they're not going to have it. And we spend all this kind of money investing in outward appearances as against investing in ourselves. And
Right.
that just seems to be kind of like a oxymoron about that. It's just so contradictory to do that. And then we know we're starving in the midst of plenty, because as black people in this country, we have we're worth 1 point something trillion dollars. And so there's really no reason or excuse for us to be starving in the midst of plenty. So this poverty mindset that we have is, and as I told a person that was on finances, that ignorance in our community is a multi-billion-dollar business.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and we are a consuming people rather than a producing people, right? So when if you know, I do this with my students, we had them write down, write down everything that you produce and everything you consume, right? This is how you get to see your productivity in society and your rate of consumption, right? Your rate of consumption is based on what you spend your time, energy, and money on, right? So whether, if you do a pie chart of your day or your week, you would say, well, I might spend, 30% of my time watching Netflix throughout the day, another 20% of my time eating, right? Another 10% of my time, doing just nothing, or 30% scrolling on social media, right? And so these are all productive activities, but they are consuming your time. So the things that you're feeding yourself during that time, either they have no reward or they have an ill benefit. You understand me? And so what we do is, by having this level of accountability, now you can make sure that you're changing your rate of production versus your rate of consumption, right? So I would rather be spending time creating, spending time working, spending time building, spending time producing. How many products do you produce per month? How much content do you produce, right? How much, productive things of service to humanity and to the world are you actually in production towards? So you should be able to calculate that. You understand me? And so everybody needs a rate of productivity measurement for their life. So in 2023, you can now start making these your goals.
In fact, that should be a goal not only just for this year, but as long as we live moving forward collectively as a people. So we begin to, and let me tell you, it's so interesting that those who understand the power of the purse will be treated accordingly. And if we are just consuming rather than investing in ourselves and returning that money, because it's a known fact that I think that says money stays in the black community only about 7 hours, then it goes somewhere else. In other communities, it at least lasts a couple of days and things of that nature. And I'm trying to figure out, is this part of the programming? Because yet, although they have all these educational institutions throughout the country, yet they teach very little, if nothing at all, about the value of saving and investing in yourself. But we can invest in a lot of liquor, we can invest in a lot of alcohols and drugs and other things and Gucci bags and all that stuff. And yet when you say, could you like to invest in yourself? And where does this let me, give me, can you free mentality comes from, you think?
Well, Lloyd, also, I believe you probably have your YouTube channel on, looking at it at the same time. If you mute that, then therefore you won't have to mute your mic, because it's just getting the feedback. So that's probably what's happening.
I don't have my YouTube on, at least not on this one. I just have one window, which is my platform window. But I'll work all that out later. But anyway, go ahead.
You know, education in this country has always been about creating a worker, right? Education in this country, general education, has never been about becoming a leader or a boss, right? It has never been about you being in a position to create disruption and change, right? So this education model that they've given us, where we measure ourselves by grades, right? Which is the same way that they grade in meatpacking factories, right? Because this is all they seen is that you're just on this assembly line. You're an A student, a B student, a C student, an F student. These are your grades. And they're disrespectful to the human being, because intellect can't be graded by letters, right? That's not how you really measure a person's true intelligence, because we have gifts, right, that cannot be understood in the classroom because of the way that the classrooms have been built and designed. So there's people walking around with the same type of grade that they will give bad meat. You understand me? And you believing that this has something to do with your gift and your genius, right? And so it's disrespectful, because if somebody says, I'm a D student, I'm an F student, no. Listen, if the student isn't learning a lot of it has to do with the method of the teaching, right? So instead, you need to grade the teachers more than you grade the students, right? And so the classroom, unfortunately, has been designed by people who weren't the smartest. Like if we're not upgrading the educational tactile ways that we go about getting knowledge in people's heads and getting them to perform based on what their gifts, talents are to bring them outward, that is the drawing out of genius, to bring out that which is inside you, not to make you a great memorizer of society's indoctrination, right? And so, but instead, we follow traditionalism, right, in education, because we, Black people have always been, or back in the 30s and 40s, we were the most educated. You understand me? We really was honing in on education. And, it was sometime where that education had been disrupted, right? And we stopped valuing education as high. So we stopped making those strides. So we blame a lot on, Black Wall Street falling, even though that there were 60 plus towns since then that also fell. But the reality of it was our education that was the reason we haven't been able to build wealth, right? Because, if the people have the knowledge, you can't stop the people from using the knowledge, right? So our lack of education was the real destruction of Black Wall Street, us not knowing our options and not having the skill sets to build accordingly. So once we educate our people, you're learning the knowledge of finance, you're learning the knowledge of artificial intelligence, you're learning how to be an engineer and a coder and a producer, right? Now we have Black Wall Street because now the people are capable of producing that which is in their head based on their knowledge and their education level. So Lloyd, this system has been perfectly designed to keep a people being workers and cattle being fed because they get paid off our bonds, right? As human capital is what they call it. The human capital in America, right, is a system that the government trades on, right? The more people that this system have, the more valuable the United States of America is, right? But it's not based on just your life alone. They get paid from a death bond when you die, right? They borrow against the human capital of America. So when they say that they're lending out bonds, they're talking about based on the stock that they have, which is the people that they have. So if you want to become a producer in this world and valuable as a people, we have to create our own education systems that is based on building, leading, controlling, owning, you understand me, and producing our own.
Well, that makes sense because there was a piece that I saw not too long ago that John D. Rockefeller in the early 1900s set up what we know now as the educational system in this country for the purpose of creating workers, not thinkers, not builders, but just here to work. And this may explain the homelessness, the poverty, especially the mindset that we have, that we're not thinking of building, especially in our communities where we've just been programmed, it seems to be more consumers of products, goods, and services rather than the builders of products, goods, and services, which makes all the difference. And I think that would explain why everybody can come into our communities, make a ton of money, get out, and we still starving in the midst of plenty, as I like to say.
Yes, starving in the midst of plenty. And that's very important to really recognize because we live in a time of great opportunity. I mean, immense opportunity everywhere. For a person to be broke in today's time, it means that it's intentional. You see, when God gives you something and you do nothing with it, it means you have no value. Because God has given us all that we need at this point. Number one, the most valuable asset on the planet Earth is our minds. It's not even time. Most people, we have foolishly thought that time was the most valuable asset. So at the behest of our own mind, You understand me? When we talk about wealth, we be like, no, you can't get time back. No, you can't get your mind back if you lose it, right? And you can't use time correctly, right? If you don't have the right mind. So with the correct mindset, it allows you to be not only in the perfect time, but making the right moves. And time, initially, I was talking to my father about this yesterday, that time in the old days was measured completely based on moves that were being made. If there are no moves, then there is no time. That's just reality.
What do you mean?
So the universe stays still, right? When the universe stood still, there was no time until motion, until thoughts spiraled into the universe, right? And that's when time was created because time is a measurement of motion. So in life, if you're not making moves, then it is not your time. So
So
whose
whose
time
time
is it?
is it?
It's the
It's the
man who
man who
makes the
makes.
most moves, the woman who makes the most move. When you look in the family, right, there's somebody successful because they're making more moves than somebody else. So people be like, oh, Keys, it's your time. Why? Because they see the moves that I'm making. So without motion, we don't have time.
Then can how then can we go about kind of being in the motion to create the time to do what we have to do? Because the looks of our situation, it seems there's very, very few entertainers and athletes. And you telling me those are the only two areas in our communities where we tend to do well in athletics and entertainment, not scholarly, scientific, or other spiritual things?
Well, Lord, historically, we have thrived in those areas of technology. We have thrived in spirituality. We have thrived in those areas. But what you have to understand is that when you look at Black people in America today, it seems, based on who controls narrative and media, it would seem that all we do and all we have done was entertain. But and also because we don't have the rewards of the work that we've done. So when you look at it historically, we are the best inventors on the planet Earth. This group of Black people in America, right, that were once slaves for 400 plus years, are the greatest group of inventors on the planet Earth. That lets me know if there was any other people, right, that came out of slavery and were the greatest group of inventors on the planet Earth, the rest of the world would bow down to their special grace, right? But they try to act like what we doing is nothing. How come the world doesn't have a narrative on that? There's no other people that can compare to what we've done. There's no internets, there's no phones, there's no doorknobs, there's no stoplights. There's you know what George Washington Carver did with the peanut revolutionized the world. There will be no soy. So Black people in America have changed the world many times over. If it was not for us, no group of other people, I'm not talking about nobody else, bar none. I don't care who likes it or don't like it. There is no other group on the planet Earth that is more special than Black people in America based on our results. But if you control the narrative, we won't even realize it.
I have to agree, brother. We are the most dynamic people on the earth, being suppressed, being enslaved. And I remember one time, it's like Malcolm X, it says that one time out and back in those times, we would work till we couldn't see in the morning and work till we couldn't see at night. Then once the Civil War, then we became all of a sudden not just workaholics from sun up to sundown, but now all of a sudden we are lazy and shiftless. Okay, what an extreme of description. Then later on, it was like, well, you all look alike. Now, fast forward to this 21st century, now we're portrayed as criminals, antisocial types of things. So when I went to China, I was stared at. I mean, no matter where I've traveled at, and you've traveled too, Black people have been given this notion that we are the criminals of society, the lowest elements of society, and yet we are the builders and the founders of everything from religion to science to math, you name it.
That's
So it's all stereotype.
well, you know, Marcus Garvey is the one that created, you know, the STEM education program in America, what he called the STEAM: science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, right? And then when you look at and see, this is how great we are, because this is why I want to do a whole documentary on just Black people in America and this special case that we are. Because even when you look at the Black Panther program, they created the breakfast program in America, right? So when you take into account like just our revolutionaries, those who are hated and despised by America, have shaped America more than anything. Black men in America, and I'm talking about the ones that were nationalists, the ones that were very conscious, right? The ones that were leaders, the ones that were executed, killed, and exiled, have actually made the most contribution to America, period, right? So it's history is just not being told correctly. But that's why I say, you know, I can be a proud American. Doesn't mean that I'm not, it's not that I'm a proud citizen of the United States of America. That's a corporation. But a North American is just based on the connection to the landmass that my peoples have had for hundreds of years, right? And the work that we've done here is incalculable. We've changed the world so many times. And even in our lowest states, Lloyd, even when we're making some of the most degrading music, it's still the most influential on the planet Earth.
That is amazing. And even with the music they're pumping out now, other groups or ethnic groups are just copying the same music and stuff. And yet this music seems to be deliberately designed because there was a time when we hear our music, it was about love and respect of our women, things of that nature. Now, fast forward, we calling women all out their names. It's suggesting that we kill each other, all the things. And so you hear about now young rappers being killed. And I mean, they haven't even blossomed into maturity of their wisdom and whatnot and being taken off the planet so early. And then I understand they have private prison systems that's designed to send our young brothers and sisters into these prisons to make ends meet and be supplied and funded by the federal government.
Now, this is, you know, the secret of America, you know, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he gave a good breakdown in 95, right? October 16, right? Now that 16 is very important. That 16 is just an upside down 9. You understand me? And so when you realize he opened up the speech, when he gathered 2 million Black men, which had never been done before in the history of the world. You understand me? And the first thing he talked about, Lloyd, was the secret of the number 19. It's the first thing he talked about. And he said that, you know, this is standing in front of this Jefferson Monument on these steps, there's 2 statues that are 19 feet high, right? And he said one represents, I believe, is the 16th president. The other one represents the 3rd president. And of course, that adds up to the number 19. Now, he said that there's a secret, right? Well, most people don't understand that, you know, they say that slavery in America started in 1619, right? With about 19 slaves. That's what they say. But the secret of it is that no, it started in 1555 with the making of a slave. Because before they had slaves, they had to take these brilliant people that had their own religion, their own way of life, their own thinking, right? That became captive, and they had to figure out how to break you and make you into a slave. And once they had the science, they reported back. And by 1619, that was when they were ready to open up shop, right? So he gave a breakdown, and he was explaining because of all of the Masonic secret rituals that have been done on the Black man and woman, is that they learn how to manage and utilize our bodies for their progress. And in America, we have always been the melanin battery pack of America. So they've taken advantage of our physical work. They've taken advantage of our mental work, and they've taken advantage of our spiritual work. but we have not learned how to own ourselves. And this is why this is the most important thing. You know, this old painting where they have all of the men, they have all of the powerful people at the table, right, playing Monopoly, and then under that is the slaves. It's built on the slaves' back, and the game, of course, is that they just stand up, the game is over, right? And so, you know, the only thing that we haven't tried as a people, so said the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, is unity. And see, when you can make everybody become individuals, they never unite. And so this is the secret. The secret is to keep you divided. All right. The secret is division, because once you have division, now you can multiply. Because look at what everybody is pushing right now. I look at all these politician page. They say the most important topic for Black America is abortion. They said this should be kitchen table talk, access to abortion. This is what they're running on. This is why these Black sisters are losing, right? Because it's not about how do we push bills that are for Black family life, because we know what's been robbed from us. We know that the welfare system, right, destroyed Black family because it created division within the Black family. We know that the crack epidemic, the lack of education, the food deserts, right, even everything from the particle matter rate in the hoods in America, the water that we have, all of these things destroying us internally. So they realize that, and now they have us moving and acting in a backwards manner, Lord. They have everything backwards. But if we just correct ourselves, stand up, and all them ones are working together, because that's what you see when I see my brother. I see different ones. Well, you one, you the one, you the one. You may be number 6. That just means you're 6 ones. You may be number 9, you're 9 ones. So it ain't about the ego of the one. It is about the ones. And that's what we are in America. I'm a 1 girl, you a 9, but together, you understand me? We make that 19.
But you know, the projection now seems to be to masculate the women and feminize the men, which is way out of nature in the balance of it. There was one report, some children's hospital, I think in the New England state, it says that infants or embryos know what they want to be before they come out. And so it's about this transgender type of things or whatever the case is like that. So, I mean, I just find it hard to believe that infant, before it even sees the light of day coming out the womb of a mom, that, well, this is what I'm going to be and this is what I need to be. It is so kind of like off course. And yet we need each other. We men need the women, and the women definitely need the men, the brothers, okay? And that was one of the things I liked about the time of the Nation of Islam. When the Nation of Islam was at its height in Harlem, it was a given. You do not disrespect a woman at the Nation of Islam, much less try to put your hands on her unless you had paid the price of your life. And so it was those things we lost that we need to protect our women so we can build families. But that seems to be a missing component now, and everybody wants to be individualized, so to speak.
Yeah, this individuality, you know, human beings think that we're better off. And what we don't realize is the fact that, you know, to respect and love each other is to reflect each other. But individuality makes you the most important thing all the time. So it is about your individual expression so that you stand apart from the collective, right? And so they're forcing this ideology on everybody. Customize who you are instead of be a part, right? When you are a part of the whole, now what you do is for the production of the collective. But in the African systems, it was about, you know, the individual working around the tribe, not the tribe working around the individual. So we have a very narcissistic, self-centered, selfish society, right? And there is narrated, the agenda is that this is self-expression. No, it's narcissism. Our women have become narcissists as well, right? They have lost their ways and they are augmenting their body parts. They can't come on social media without a filter. They've lose and lost the love for self, right? And now they're losing the love for their equal opposites, which would be specifically when I'm speaking on Black culture, for the Black man would be the Black woman. Now, anything outside of us seeing how we can fit with our equal counterpart and building up our life around that is based on the degradation that society has played on the minds of our people. That's it, Lord. There's nothing outside of
I tell you this, it has been detrimental just looking at the conditions of our community, and maybe this is why I like the concept of you coming up with high level conversations. How did you come about that? Because I think that is so cool, raising people's consciousness, Kundalini, call it what you will.
Man, thank you. That's a good question. High level, I look at everything that I start is my business model always start at the top of the paper is how can I change the world? You understand me? And I look at the world as a collection of our thoughts and ideas. So I can change somebody's world literally by changing the way they think, right? So you can change the world if you change enough people in the way that they think. So you can't force change, you can inspire change. That is the beauty of life. You cannot change anybody because everything about a person is internally, right, controlled. But you can inspire change and you can educate people on how to. Most of our society, don't know how to think, Lord. So the conversation was, how do we, because when you're talking high level, you're giving them a bird's eye view. You're giving them an overview. You're giving them the macro. You're giving them the vision. But exposure is key. When I go around society and I see nothing but curated low-level content, low-level conversation, it is a direct reflection of who we are. So what do we deserve? Do we deserve to still have content that is anti-Black, that is anti-intelligence, that is anti-enlightenment? Or do we deserve to have conversations and content that is pro-enlightenment, that is pro-Black, that is pro-wealth, that is pro-productivity? So it was more so about how do I be the change I want to see? And then I do everything from a design standpoint. If you look at this, look at that banner right there, you don't see that in the culture, right? We create, imagination is lost today, right? Most things that people do are non-creative. They're a copycat. You get graded now on TikTok for how you can copy others, right? Now we people get attention by watching what somebody else do. So now we do all these different type of reels. Society is being trained to not think for self, right? And not imagine for yourself, to not be creative whatsoever. So we design everything with high level creativity because I can't call myself a god if I'm not creative, right? So I want to spark in the minds and the imagination of our people the different things that we are interested in, right? So I know that we're interested in more things than money, sex, and sports. We're interested in spirituality. We're interested in astrology. We're interested in numerology. We're interested in science and physics, right? We're interested in alien, and we're interested in technology. We're interested in futurism, right? We're interested in so many different things. And so understanding that the only issue is that when we look out there, there is no high level content that can be the oasis for our other interests. So for me, I'm like, no, I can prove that we can create our own models, like ain't no, shout out to Revolt. I've been working with Revolt a little bit on the back end, but there's a lot of Black media companies, but who is the most valuable? We know it ain't BET because it's not Black owned. They refuse to make educational content. I talked to the president about that, right? They could easily be, doing the best news. Now you have Griot, right? You got Revolt. You have a few different people that have channels, but most of it is about gossip and politics or entertainment, right? So gossip, politics, and entertainment is the new cycle of Black America. Where's the education? Where's the science? Where's the engineering? Where's the mathematics? You dig? So it's about bringing ancient science to modern man. So we have our Library of Alexandria now. We have our Library of Timbuktu. And so even if it's not me, I'm inspiring many other people as well to do this. So there was a conscious community, as you know, in New York. I grew up in Oakland, so I wasn't privy to that era of the conscious community. But growing up in Oakland, these are the type of conversations that we had. And then being introduced to the conscious community in New York, my only takeaway, a caveat towards disagreement with that, was just the way that they bickered and debated, right? Instead of utilize that knowledge to build. Because what benefits a man that knows something if he does nothing, right? So I wanted to be the change of how about we take the best parts of our community, the best parts of that consciousness, the best parts of it, and then we curate a show around that is not around negativity, it's not around hate, it's not around gossip, it's not around debate. No, it's just based on high level conversations.
And that makes all the difference in the world, too, because they got us bickering over little, trifling, meaningless things of no consequence, which is ironic. Fighting over the little triflings and tidbits and whatnot, and missing out on the larger things. But you know what's interesting about born on a 4 like you? 4 is what you call a very visionary number. 4s tend to just be ahead of their time, which is why they will have what is called secret enemies, or people who will be jealous of you, envious, or insecure. This is not just you as a 4, but most 4s in general. But 4 people tend to be a little ahead of their, not just a little, very much ahead, which is why one of the things about 4s is keeping certain information to themselves initially until you're ready to get it out the gate. But it seems like you have done such a tremendous job of raising people's consciousness and whatnot. But we still have this thing that we like to bicker back and forth with each other. And it really doesn't do you any good, me any good, them any good. And yet we all are in the same boat going through the same changes. Although you got some people who are doing very well and they think because they're doing well and the masses are not, but they don't understand the correlation, the causation of it, that, you know, because the have-nots will take from the haves if peers come to self, because they have to eat, live, survive, and everything too, like that. So I just think it's amazing to create this high-level conversation, to raise our consciousness, and hopefully people find it receptive. Because I tell you this, since I've been interviewed on your show, I've been getting so many responses. Also, I can see it here on the comment section. And we should do these things. It's very, very important. Now, you said you also teach a class or something like that?
Yes, sir. So I have a whole coaching program. It's called BWO, Block World Order. And in this, we actually, deal with all aspects of self. So we have where, we teach we teach finances and financial education, financial literacy. So whether it's you want to learn how to, trade stocks and read charts, right? You want to learn how to put together a financial plan. You want to be a better entrepreneur, however that may be. We have my bro Quay who comes in and he teaches that class. And then we have a person that even teaches physical, right? Engineering. So we have somebody that's actually getting you fit. So, this is different because most people don't have anything like that, but, you're actually working out with it. So you're reaching your physical goals. So we're trying to get you to your optimum self. Then I'm teaching a mental engineering class, which, like you said, there's a lot of information that I don't always like sharing with the public. Some stuff I know is dangerous to share, right? But in this BWO, I'm at this point where I'm all transparent. Whatever I got, whatever knowledge I have, I give to my students, right? And they get that. These are my mentees. They under my mentorship. So therefore, I'm helping guide them throughout life. And so it's more beautiful than a course, because a course is something you just take and you watch like a movie, right? But this is actually us helping you go through life. showing you how to do it step by step. So you may come with a question and I'll be able to answer it live, right after we give our lesson. So right now we at this point where, I created this idea and we actually went over numerology, utilizing your book. And I actually would like for you to come in and teach the class. But one of the things that we decided to do is create what I call the life manual, right? So you have a mind manual and a life manual inside the BWO. So in the mind manual, we teach you everything about the mind, right? And so imagine if when we were born, our brains came with a manual on how to use them throughout our lives. But there's so many different ways that you can activate and utilize your mind, but we were never taught. We were never given a manual for life. We get instructions to build all kind of different things, but we've never been given instructions on how to build our mind. So I use the analogy of, imagine if the CIA, FBI, NSA had a file on you. They had a file on you, they would know everything about you. You understand me? They know your personality type, your character design. They know your traumas in life. They know the things that you're predisposed to. They know everything about you. So they know, like, if you was applying for them, they know whether you're a good candidate or bad. They know how you're going to react in the field. Then they can employ somebody like a psychologist to actually help you out because they understand you and they can make you mentally fit and mentally tough to be able to do and carry out anything, any assignment, right, in the field. Life is like that. We are agents of our own assignments, but some of us are untrained agents in the world because we don't actually have any skill sets. When we go out there, you should be like a CIA agent. You should be like a trained, you understand me, agent in the field of life. So that's what we're doing. We're teaching people how to be trained agents in the field of life. And so we give you all of these different thinking tools and methods that you can use. And then we also teach Web3. Right. And we teach business, we teach AI. So currently we're teaching an AI program, man. I won't share a lot publicly. It'd be unfair to the students, but we show you how to create your own books. We show you how to utilize the AI art programs and how to monetize them, just to share a little bit. I had a brother of mine I taught how to use the AI art prompts, and he was able, he never thought of himself as an artist, right? But I showed him how to utilize this artificial intelligence technology, right? And Lloyd, the thing about AI, because I'm 19 keys, is that A numerical value and that I, you understand me, is gonna be 19, right? So I look at that, the same thing with DNA, right? So it's in my DNA. You understand me? If you add up the letters of DNA, it's gonna come to 19. So I say that to say this, because number 19 is a God number because it represents life. But they understand that they're not the original people, so they create AI instead. Artificial intelligence, artificial ingredients, artificial insemination. This is how they play God, right? Because they're controlling that 19. So when you see AI, what you're seeing is 19, right? It's a number of God that can be utilized. So you may be looking at the letters, but really you're looking at the numbers. So we're now in the age of 19. We just got through crown 19, COVID being a crown. Then you got the 19, COVID-19, right? And now AI is the big thing that's going on right now. And so once you understand the mathematics in that, right, it's very important that we dominate and control these industries that are going to be utilizing AI because they're utilizing your own God number against you. So we teach you how to, my bro learned how to utilize the AI art program. Then he threw a art gallery and he sold his first painting for $1,000 after he got it printed out. You understand me? So, real life skills that you can utilize and monetize. So skill sets for assets is my goal. And we got Black Friday coming up and we're going to have something special for people to be able to get in at a very good price so that you can, try yourself out in the BWO. But this is a family. This is like, we had our inauguration process in Atlanta where the students came, they flew all in and was able to give them their certificates. And we're going to continue to do that, quarterly and go and fly out through our different chapters, because imagine going through the year with a super community. Imagine going through 2023 with a super coach like myself and my peers and my bros. And not only that, bro, we even got algorithms, right, that help people trade in the market, whether it's stocks or crypto, right, that has software, you understand me, that can tell you when to buy and sell to take the emotions out of it. So it's like we have an app coming out. We're also a technology platform. So a lot of the things that we do, I'm not just a talker. I communicate actions, not just words. That's different. Some people communicate words. I communicate actions. Meaning,
Well, it's obvious you put in the work, and in fact, somebody in the comment section had just talked about learning how to invest, and that is one of your fortes too, whether it's cryptocurrency, stocks, or whatever the case is like that. So we can become more sophisticated now. Well, and let me say this too, because time is running out. The time is going by so fast. There's this thing now that there's this discovery supposedly that melanin works better in a computer than the minerals or whatever that's been operating these. But yet, and so melanin is a very, very important thing. They said melanin in a computer is better than the other minerals or stones or whatever they put in it to make it work, or crystals, shall we say.
No, melanin, they actually patented it because they found out that it's actually an infinite supply of energy. So they was able to pack melanin into a battery, and this is an infinite supply of energy. So it's an infinite battery. You have to understand how powerful and electric we are, right? I'll give a breakdown on melanin one of these days for a high level conversation that I have. But being able to maximize, right? Somebody asked what's the most money I made from investing. I think if you've been following me a long time, I've had some incredible days in the market, but I don't like my bros are investors and master investors. So that's not something I proclaim, but I've had, a 6-figure day in the market that's documented. You understand me? And so, if that answers your question, but I'm not the person that's teaching investing. I have experts that come in there and they teach you. So I want you all to understand, like, I'm not peddling nothing that I don't do. You understand me? If I do it, then I teach it, right? And I believe when you do something, you should do it full time. So if you're going to do investing and you want to get into trading and you want to join the family, do it full time, not part time. You understand me? When you do it full time, you become a master, right? To do it part time is actually more dangerous, because you only think you're a master, but you're not putting in enough time to actually master the craft.
That's like saying you learn enough. That's why they say a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. But when you are immersed in what you do, you can't help but become eventually a master of your craft.
This
It's
is
just that simple. You-
Yeah, so I've written books, and I have a book out.
Yeah, speaking of that, let me show people the book. And can you, in fact, I want you to tell us about the book. This is your book here. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Paradigm Solution-Based Programming is a book that I written to give people, simple tools, thinking tools that they can utilize to start their journey of reprogramming themselves. Right? We are designed. Computers are designed like us, so you can take the framework of a computer, right, and think about the way you can reprogram self. Some of us, from the way that we've been indoctrinated, ways that we've been taught, the ways that we think, the ways that we eat, the way that we move, the way that we see society, do not know how to shift into that next stage. So people are always asking, where do I start? And you always start with the first step of educating yourself. And then in this book, it gives you solution-based mind reprogramming tools. And this is just volume 1. But before I get out volume 2, you want to make sure that you have volume 1. Right now, I will just read one paragraph from this, and this paragraph is about, the education system, actually, what we was talking about, right? It says, our education system is built on creating workers and consumers and not thinkers and owners. Our education system puts people within a system of grades, A, B, C, D, like factory workers. A system which does not grade imagination or godly potential within. Many children who receive A's in school do not reach their full potential in life. It's better to have gotten all F's in school and become a success in life than to get good grades, false measurements of success and potential. Some children were taught that they didn't have the social skills to be successful because they didn't want to sit long enough. They didn't want to sit long enough to become indoctrinated and prove that they can get a good grade. The class clown was diagnosed with ADHD, who is now a world now famous comedian. And the children who got good grades now work for them on set. The outspoken child who challenged his teacher is now a thought leader, influencing the teacher's children. Often those bad children that didn't want to submit to authority thought for self and didn't want to assimilate. They gain grit and strong minds, developing even stronger characters because the uncommon route develops original thinking. Hey man, y'all better get that book, man.
That's powerful. How can people get a hold of the book?
They can text book. They can go to my Twitter and they can click on it, or they can text book to 323-577-6692. Texting that number 323-577-6692. You can text BWO if you want to send in your application to be a part of the BWO, and we will have a Black Friday special for you all. So make sure you do that. So whether it's the books, whether it's our nootropics, our gold water, whether it's our smart moss, all of the different things that we do, you can text that number down below and you can get access. So, you know, as a serial entrepreneur, as a thought leader, as a man of the people, I always try to make sure that all my products are actually good for the people so that my success actually represents good impact.
Well, I tell you this, you know, there's this saying that the elders will say, you can show me better than tell me, and you've done just that, my friend.
Thank you.
That's all I could tell you. So the proof is in the pudding. You know what I'm saying? Because
Yes,
talk
sir.
is cheap, trust me. And we are masters of the spoken word, okay? And
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
we've learned that for survival purposes. But when it comes to us having, and my whole thing too, and in closing with this, where do you think we got this lend me, give me, can you spare, is it free mindset from? If that's a poverty mindset that won't quit, and yet we don't go to other folks with a lend me, give me, can you spare, is it free mindset. Where do you think something like that comes from?
I think it comes from not having the understanding of value, right? So you have to think about it. You know, if I go to a restaurant and I pay $200 to eat some food and I shit it out the next morning, right? Yet when somebody spends time, and this is partly of us not valuing each other. I was taught that a devil devalues you, right? While God adds value. Because when God stands next to nothing, he makes it into something. He multiplies that value. But when that devil stands behind you, he subtracts your value. So you can either go to being multiplied or you can go to being subtracted. But that's what God does. So when I see my brother that has a product, right, first thing I want to do is support and pay because I want to give value. Every other community and culture understands this, right? But when we see each other, we have a crab in a barrel mentality. We want to take, but we don't want to give, right? So being over consumers has destroyed our ability to see the value in those who actually produce that come from us. Then we have this thing that, you know, information is free, right? But products and things that people create, once you pay for that, it's the same thing. Like you have to understand, you know, you can pay a person through compliments. When people say the old saying, pay me a compliment, right? Because reciprocation is key. It's the cycle that keeps the universe spinning and rolling. If I get gratitude for the things that I do, it fills me up and I can keep going. But if I'm around people that just take, it will drain me doing the same activity. So gratefulness from the people that you assist in work is actually a key to be able to continue to do the work because we're now giving each other something. It's energy. So when you don't value knowledge, you want it to be free. See, this is one thing that coming out of slavery, people don't understand that word free can not mean value, right? So it's not that, you know, it's not about being a free people because if you went from being somebody had to buy you on the chopping block to now you're free to take. You understand me? So now you freely give yourself to slavery when at first somebody actually had to bid for you. So now we at this point where we don't see the value in each other. So we don't see the value in the things that we do. So you're not getting my time and my energy for free. There's something you have to pay because I have to spend time with you. I have to spend energy on you. When I do high level conversations, I've spent, man, my invoices at the end of the month are very high. You understand me? Like I spent thousands of dollars from traveling, from having editors, from paying thumbnail people, from getting the graphics done, from pushing it out, from the time that our editors spend just getting the clips out, right? Like the time it takes to think about the concepts, the way we want the episode to be structured. Like this is a show, it's not a podcast. So people don't think about that aspect that we spend hours traveling the nation, producing a show, paying to bring camera equipment, right, everywhere that we travel, which costs hundreds of dollars each time, spending thousands of dollars on flight, hotels, Airbnbs, right, having a staff, right, of tens of people that we have to pay to make sure that all these things are done. So if anybody doesn't value that, then it's disrespectful to your time, because time is the moves we make. So our people that don't value themselves, they don't value other people. So it's not a representation of your value, Floyd. It's the representation, or Lloyd rather. Same thing with myself. It's a representation of a people that don't believe in themselves, right? So they can't believe in you, and they can't give you value if they don't value themselves.
That makes all the sense in the world, because again, this notion of low expectations, that we should do something without any thought of compensation. If you don't have skin in the game, how can you grow? How can you move to the next level? Because the human math is nothing from nothing equals nothing. That's the human math.
Yeah.
Whether you write it on paper or just from the actions of human beings. So, but I'm glad this is it. I kept you a little over time. If you hold on a second, I want to just make a couple of announcements, and then I want you to share the last word for people to walk away with some things. And by the way, his banner will be at the bottom. Please make sure you'll reach out and contact that number. He is on IG. I see you have a couple of 19 keys on IG, about 2 or 3 of them.
I make fake accounts.
Really? How can you tell? There's about 2 or 3. So how can you tell which one is
It's
yours?
only real one. That's the main account. And for some reason they want to verify. So we have.
Now, is this the right one that's on your banner? Is this the right one?
Yeah, 19 score keys.
Okay, good. That good. As long as I got the official one, good. Okay, so that's good. Everybody, I'll be right with you in a second. 19 keys. Everybody, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. I hope it has raised your consciousness, your awareness to be the importance of really, really having a mindset that's very, very productive. I will say this again. This was our meeting that we had last week here in Brooklyn at an Airbnb. It was really great. But I want to let you know though that my online course is on sale through, I think, tomorrow or Friday, Thanksgiving, as it's called here. Although for me, every day is a day of thanks. But my class is on sale. What's left of November, that free monthly newsletter. All you got to do to take advantage of the courses at discount is go to Lloyd-Strayhorn.com. That's LLOYD-Strayhorn, STRAYHORN. Sign up for the free monthly newsletter, and definitely sign on for the course, because this is an ancient African science, although they kind of want to say it's not, but the proof is in the pudding. And for those that know how to do the research in history, it's very obvious that if Pythagoras studied in Egypt for 20 odd years and Egypt is on the African continent, maybe that should give people a clue as to the source of this. Also, please make sure you get 19 Keys book that's right on the screen there for you. And let me ask you this. How can they get this book again?
They can go to my Twitter, click the link in the bio. It's on crowns19.com. That's my site. They can actually, buy my crowns there too. CROWNZ19.com. But you can also just text book to 323-577-6692. And let me see if I can give y'all a discount on the book as well, real quick. So for those who are watching this, I'm going to go ahead and give y'all an early discount for the physical book. I'm going to change the price to $19 instead of the normal price. So everybody that gets it in the next 24 hours can get it at
I was going to say that number 19 sounds real familiar, buddy. Okay. But in numerology, the 19 is considered one of the most fortunate numbers to possess. And so I just think it's interesting because it represents the beginning and the end, the alpha and the omega. You can start what you finish what you start. And brother, if you haven't personified 19, I don't know who have. That's all I can say. So would you like to have any parting words for our viewers?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think it goes um, I think it goes into what you do, brother Lloyd, which is be a great observer, right? Becoming a high level observer is key. I always talk about it because it's what allowed me to first begin this journey of cementing myself as a thought leader in the world. So when you are a high level observer, you're not one that's controlled by what you see, but you control what you see. So you design the synchronicity of your life, right? You are not swayed by the frequencies of the world, but you learn how to become the dominant frequency in your world. I always say what you do frequently becomes your frequency. And if you learn how to first be an observer of the world, be still, right? Take in information, take in data, take in knowledge, and then act off that information and that knowledge. Now you're moving always from a place of being highly informed. But we have to learn sometimes just go do something very simple for me. Take your phone and you sit it down and you leave it. And you walk outside tomorrow and you go walk 3 blocks and you do what you call an observation walk. This observation walk is to start to train your mind to see reality again, because they're so, and it reconnects you to changes and cycles in this world. See, our head is down in the phone so much that we don't even see the world around us changing and being built. We used to know when fall was coming because we would see the first leaf turning, right? We're no longer great predictors of weather and different cycles, and we don't really see the change. But just stop and look at the world. Look how people are dressed now. Look how people move now. Look how they build things. Look at the color of things. Become present and in sync with your reality, right? And operate from that place, not the place of everything is constantly pulling your attention and taking you away from your power, but the place of being the great observer in the world. So now you can see things for as they are, not the way people are trying to show you. And once you do that, you power over your reality.
And brother, it makes all the difference in the world. And when you said, well, just leave your phone in the house, I'm sure there's some people out there saying, are you serious? But they missed the point, I think, of what you're trying to say. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And because here in New York City, I remember if on the train and the train is packed with passengers, 95% or more got their heads in a phone. Not a book, not in thought or meditation, but in a phone. So their situational awareness of the things around them is like almost non-existent nowadays.
That's a fact. Yeah. And so that's why people are out of sync with themselves, because we have own internal changes that we don't even recognize. We know more about what's going on in here, right, versus what's going on in here. So we don't understand ourselves, because when you start to observe the world, you also start to observe yourself. How do you feel? What's your temperament? It's the same thing you can do when you sit down and you meditate. You are able to observe the frequency of your feelings, your thoughts, and then you are able to control them instead of being controlled by them. When your anger arises, you don't have to act in anger. You can say, oh, you're angry. You notice yourself and say, okay, well, why? Right? Now, when you contemplate the logic of the why of the emotion, you're bringing the frequency down to a place where you can control it. But most of us don't realize we're actually controlled by the frequencies of the world, and we call those emotions. So you can be triggered, right? You don't know how to get over things because you don't know how to repurpose perception. which is a way to travel back in time in your mind for situations that have occurred and create a new reality and perspective on what it was. So you can take it as a lesson and be thankful for going through the dark times, and then you bring in lessons which improves you, or you can allow it to be a consistent trauma in your life that you relive because the memory is continuing to strike you down. So we have these abilities to time travel. We have these abilities to observe ourselves, to observe the world. And we know in physics that just through observation changes reality.
Well, I can tell you this, people are definitely into their feelings big time. And some of the things that we do to each other because of feelings just seems, it doesn't have any rhyme or reason for doing so. And it's crazy and it's affecting us in a negative way. But 19 Keys, I want to thank you so, so much. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you, brother.
asking me to come and speak before uh, the brothers and sisters. That would be a pleasure to do. All you got to do is let me know when it is, okay?
Yes,
In the
sir. Yes,
meantime,
sir,
though,
man.
have a blessed day and thank you for spending your valuable time with me. This I appreciate, all right? And for those of you who want to get his books, get his, reach out to him. As you see at the bottom of the screen is his contact number, his official IG page, because I saw three of them. I'm glad I mentioned that because you know what I'm saying? So, you know, you got people who just can't be original to save their lives, brother. So what you gonna do? You do the best you can, all right?
Yeah,
So
I
I want to
understand.
thank you. Yeah. So anyway, I want to thank everybody very, very much. This has been another edition of Live with Lloyd. I definitely need to thank 19 Keys. This was great. As you see, I ran over an hour again. I figured it would be less than an hour, maybe an hour. But as you see, the knowledge is so great. Please get in touch with him at the bottom of the screen there, his phone number, his IG number, and be awake and aware as to what he is doing. He's doing a hell of a job to raise our consciousness and awareness, and we all need to put something into the pot too. All righty? Everybody, I want y'all to all have a blessed, blessed day. I will see you on Monday. Have a very safe weekend. Until then, okay? Y'all take it easy.